I have a couple quotes here that I want to read about limiting, and the first one is by Jacob Israel Liberman from Luminous Life, and he says this one was one of the first ones to hit me, and that I was like, yes, this is what I'm talking about. Healthcare practitioners must find a new way of seeing and discussing the ailments our patients are dealing with. The practice of diagnostic labeling often frightens the patient and limits both the doctor's belief in the patient's ability to recover, as well as the patient's faith in their own ability to heal. Our ideas and beliefs about life limit our ability to experience it fully. And, you know, this hits with me because, one, I have worked in the healthcare field, and you still can call it the healthcare field, whatever you want to call it. But, like, that happens all the time, and I see it with people I work with, or I see it with family members. And my dad has somewhat recently been diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's, and he's 63. He's going to be 64 this year. But at first it was diagnosed as something else. Then it was diagnosed as early onset Alzheimer's. But when you get diagnosed as early onset Alzheimer's, what happens is essentially there's nothing we can do for you. Mm-hmm. You can go into these research studies and you can try to be part of that, and but there's not really much we can do for you, which isn't necessarily true. Like, I think there's a lot you can do for someone like that. With my dad, he's going to speech therapy. He should be going to some sort of cognitive therapy, whether it's with a psychologist or just a counselor or whatever. Like, he should be working on that stuff too. He's active. He goes to the gym. He still works. The biggest thing is that you see is his speech and his memory, but he's always had attention issues as far as like my whole life. So maybe this whole thing is being pushed and, culminates in the Alzheimer's, like, symptoms that they see and the changes in the brain with the scans. But just as soon as you label it that, like, he doesn't know what to do. My mom doesn't know what to do. The doctors say, well, we don't really do anything with that. And then it's just like, so it almost ends. Mm-hmm. And that happens all the time. You get diagnosed with cancer, and it's like, well, now you have to go on chemo, you have to do this and this and this. But what about going other ways or doing other things? And, you get diagnosed with, you have back pain, and you get diagnosed with a disc, a slip disc or a bulging disc or something like this. And they're usually kind of bogus diagnoses. But you start to cling to those things. Mm-hmm. Oh, well, I have cancer. I'm a cancer survivor. I have this and that, my back hurts. It must be my disc. No, it's probably not your disc. It's probably the last thing it is. Mm-hmm. It's most likely your muscles and the way that you're moving. Like, most of the time, that's what it is.
Well, there's definitely a tendency and a desire to form an identity out of these ailments and to lean on that as I'm a person with this and this, so this and this can be expected of me, and I expect this and this from other people because I'm this now.
Yeah.
And that's something that kind of lays underneath the surface. There's no way to take into consideration how different every person can be and how much influence they can have on their own situation. You're just forging you're projecting your idea of the past onto the future. Yeah. As you're just this is how it's statistics. Like, this is how it's going for most people, so you can just assume it's going to be the same for you. No, it can go infinite different ways. There's so many,
and those statistics are so skewed. I mean, the cancer treatment and the statistics and the research on that are just like, it's so skewed and crazy. Like, you don't have to have that much of an effect for a drug to be
considered effective
in treatment, but these drugs just make people more sick. Like, I always think about it, like, I wonder if I ever get diagnosed with cancer, like, am I going to put myself through that, or am I just going to live, like... Mm-hmm. And it makes me reluctant to want to go to the doctor, because why don't I just live based off of how I'm feeling and everything that's going on? And, like, I don't need to know what some test tells me, like some made-up test from a human tells me that something's going on with my body. Like, I'm more connected with my body and understand what's going on than anyone else will. Mm-hmm. And that body-mind connection is important, but it's not everything. And once you start going into the the true self and the awareness and the consciousness, you start to see that is really everything, and the body mind is just the vessel that we connect through the world with, which is kind of a weird thing to get at and understand. But once you kind of understand that, you really have less ailments, you have less issues, and things don't bother you as much because it's gonna go away. It's just there for a short period of time. It's all finite.
That's the thing, man. It depends on how deep you want to go, because if you accept that you are a body born, and what you are is that body born into this world of, many terrors and predators and all types of things in this world that can hurt you, and you're just a small little thing in this big universe, then your life is going to show up to show you what you believe. It's going to reinforce that belief. What these spiritual teachers are saying, and we're going to get into this with Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj, his book I Am That. What he says is, okay, so you've been going your whole life with that assumption. What I'm telling you is, and this is what he says, take what I'm saying for a second. What I'm telling you is that you are the totality of all universal intelligence, and you are the supreme reality, and that this body and this mind is projected onto the screen of consciousness, just as all these other objects in your field of awareness are projected onto the screen of consciousness. And even something so intimate as your own thoughts and feelings are every bit as much on the screen as this table and this chair and that tree. So not only are you not fundamentally these objects on the screen, but these objects in the screen are arising within you and are made out of you. And what you are essentially, I mean, you could consider that the ultimate self. You can consider that God consciousness. There's so many different spiritual words for that. But what he's saying is that's true. So he says you've been living your whole life as if that's not true. What the guru tells you is just pretend and trust me that that's true, and live your life for a little while as if that's true. And every time your thought goes to some sort of finite person, fear thought, take it back to this I am everything approach. And he says, if you just do that faithfully and with enough conviction and with a little bit of trust for long enough, the truth will be shown. It will reveal to you that is true. But you'll never ever realize it if you keep assuming that this other reality is true, right, that you've been living at. He says all you need to do is try.
Well, and there's literally no harm in trying.
There's no harm in trying.
There's nothing bad will ever come of it. Maybe nothing will come of it for you, but most likely it'll be something good.
The worst that can happen is nothing at all.
Yeah, nothing changes drastically in that time period.
But or just some people are just like, look, man, I'm cool being a body. I don't mind staying as a body as long as you just tell me some things I can do to make this body work better, and that's fine. But in order to do that, you can't avoid touching on these metaphysics, because if my advice to you to live a better body life is to become more aware and to stop holding these negative thoughts and expectations in your mind, and loosen yourself from these fears that might lead to bad habits, like bad eating habits or bad exercise. If this is my advice to you, the only way for me to justify this being my advice is because of this metaphysical truth that I'm talking about, that in reality your mind and your consciousness is the ultimate reality. Because if that weren't true, then the answer would be no, go to the doctor and take the pill, because that's your only hope, dude. Yeah. If what I was saying and what Maharaj was saying wasn't true, the only answer would be, do what the doctor tells you. Do whatever's happened to people in the past, just assume that's going to happen to you. So if I'm telling you that that's not your ideal course of action, I have to tell you the reason that I think it's this other thing, and that's because what I'm telling you is that you're not what you think you are. So